The planet is transitioning through two major streams of qualifying solar energy. The familiar energy of the Piscean era in its ways of thinking and living is ebbing, and a dawning fullness is flowing in from the new Aquarian energy, where hearts and minds will be infused with new energies of love, unity, and wholeness. During this bridge time, there are people and organizations who are working to facilitate the incoming energies of the new age into living activity by serving as esotericists. Dr. Maria Montessori, in the establishment of Montessori schools and the implementation of her Montessori method, was one such facilitator. In her many years of study and observation of the child, she recognized what she called the psyche, soul, or spirit within the child from birth. She purposed her life in defense of this inner power, which all children possess, calling the child a psychic entity, a new world force, endowed with unknown powers unique and peculiar to each child. She acknowledged that within the child lies the fate of the future. She believed that education must protect the development of these hidden potentialities in the child from birth. She previsioned an education of the child as the best means whereby a new world of peace could be reconstructed, lifting humanity into the light after the decimations of the war. At that time, education was thought of as mind training, with memorization of knowledge as its main method. Montessori knew that mere transmission of knowledge would set the fate of humanity to commit more war and strife, for she knew that character formation comes from experience and not from explanation. She thenceforth rewrote the method of teaching and created new purposeful work materials, specially prepared for little bodies, hands, and minds at each stage of their development. Montessori also knew that out of all things, love is the most important. Incorporated into her classrooms was the ideal and is the ideal learning atmosphere where love, respect, patience, and understanding can flourish, wherein the child can be trained in right human relations between each other and from each to the community. This type of atmosphere provides children a safe immersion within themselves with prepared, meaningful works in a sensorial, experiential way, giving the child the opportunity for inner unfoldment in the quiet exploration of their chosen subject matter through concentration, either in solitude or in group formation, creating community. Maria Montessori's educational effort is one worldly example of a serving esotericist, bridging from the old to the new in the field of education, facilitating humanity to a point in evolution where we are ready to enter into more light. As aspiring esotericists, we must acknowledge the universal before moving on to the particular. With this in mind, we recognize in reverence the presence of the one fundamental, eternal school, comprised of the great personages who compose the hierarchy, with the Christ as their leader, the master of all masters, the teacher alike of angels and of men. This great esoteric school has as its purpose the development of self-consciousness in all beings. Its members act as transmitters of the will of the planetary logos, and set an example for humanity that they too can follow in their footsteps, triumph over matter, and thus enter into the spiritual kingdom. A great world teacher emerged from this one fundamental school, the Lord Buddha. The Buddha was the first of our humanity to achieve enlightenment. His accomplishment culminated the age of knowledge education, representing the third aspect of divinity, active, intelligent adaptability. Because of his high attainment, the lower mental body of man became developed, awakening it to the stimulation of knowledge, making possible mass educational institutions, and the intelligence as a powerful factor in our modern civilization. This light bearer gave us all-important preliminary lessons to those who aspire toward esoteric service. He taught that we must relinquish our desire for manifestation in the phenomenal world, and thus remove our hindrances toward evolution. This renouncing activity is facilitated by making our lives a scientific experiment. Science is the effort toward right spiritual living, where we become receptive to higher and higher interpretations of truth, and then modify our being to reflect this higher truth. This self-initiated experiential activity begins through the mental practice of discrimination and dispassion. The Lord of Light gives the next step in transformation by laying out for us the discerning practice of service to others and God, enacted through the noble eightfold path of right thinking, right speech, right effort, right conduct, right modes of living, right values, right aspiration, and right rapture. The work of the Buddha prepared the way for his great brother, the Christ, who is also known as the Lord Maitreya, the Bodhisattva, the Imam Mahdi, and others. Because of his high point in evolution, this God-man was able to build on the foundational work of the Buddha to inaugurate a new age, the age of love, and brought into manifestation through the divine perfection of his being the second aspect, the principle of love. The teaching of this Lord of Love is so simple. He taught that we must love one another. As esotericists, making the energy of love a factual nature in our lives is one of the greatest services we can offer the world. Application of love is the key which opens the door to the spiritual kingdom. When we begin to resonate to that same vibration, we unify ourselves with all of life. The coming of the Aquarian age brings with it the manifesting energy of love, bringing effects into the new world, a new world religion, right approach to God transcendent in nature, and right teaching of God immanent in man. The Christ, in his function as world teacher, along with the hierarchy, will lead humanity with love and cooperation into worldwide groups of goodwill. Humanity will thus become a bridge, healing the divide between the higher and lower kingdoms, creating one synchronous whole between all kingdoms in nature, within the one in whom we live and move and have our being. There are 5 immediate steps ahead in mental development for aspirants and disciples in the field of esoteric education. There is the need for more adequate means of study and understanding in esoteric psychology. This psychology is concerned with the right growth and development of the essential nature of the human unit, or the emergence of soul life. Second, there is need of understanding the nature of the 5-fold qualified energies seeking expression in individuals by using the science of the 7 rays as indication to educators of right vocational training. Third, educators must give esoteric teaching on the constitution of man, relating man's divine nature as a soul to his 3 vehicles of expression in the 3 worlds, and the training of those vehicles into one coordinated unit. Fourth, educators will recognize the fact of esoteric astrology determined from the moment of the first breath by using the horoscope and ray chart in evaluating the individual's life every 7 years to facilitate unfoldment of soul purpose and life objectives. And fifth, the law of rebirth will be accepted as a natural governing process in determining an individual's point in evolutionary development, acknowledging whether a person has physical or emotional dominance, mental inclinations and tendencies, or future signs of the new racial qualities, consciousness, or idealistic vision. When the above ideas are recognized and practiced, 3 sciences will dominate the future field of education in the Aquarian age. The science of the Antahkarana is the bridge-building activity in consciousness between the lower mind or personality, the soul or egoic body, and the higher mental or spiritual triad. Working with the subtle substance of the 3 higher levels of the mental plane will produce continuity of consciousness, unimpeded awareness with the mind of God and his purposes and plans. The science of meditation is the process of connecting the inner man with the outer worlds of expression and the higher world of origins or essence. Meditation relates to every life process, makes one sensitive to higher vibration, works with visualization, and is the major way of spiritual functioning. In the third science, the science of service is the natural expression toward all living beings of a loving heart and an intelligent mind. This science naturally grows outward into developed and fostered group relationships as the result of contact with the soul. Serving as an esotericist is the ability to live and function subjectively, maintaining a continuity of consciousness with the soul, while manifesting outwardly through active, loving, living service, poured forth intelligently for a needy world. This right orientation is the activity by which permission is granted to enter the world of meaning. Information alone does not make us esotericists. We must learn to bring out the bad and the good within us, to understand and know what to do with it, how to handle these energies, so that we know also what exists within the planet, positive and negative. With intelligent training and the disciplining of the lower body, we begin to receive a truer picture of who we are, revealing that which is within. We must purify ourselves so we can distinguish between the real and the unreal, the light and the darkness. Thus manifest the true serving nature of a Son of God. The secrets of esotericism are discovered for the aspirant through living simply in an unselfish manner until this way of life becomes instinctive, thus dropping this striving activity below the threshold of consciousness, enabling the next horizon of work to appear, inspired by the soul. This often involves the sacrifice of the personality life, and at a much later stage of development, the sacrifice of soul life. Humanity is the guardian for the subhuman kingdoms, and therefore part of our purpose is to lift or redeem the beings in the lower kingdoms, inspiring them onto the next higher level of development. Just as the hierarchy, our guardians, serve to stimulate evolution within our being, quickening our entrance into the spiritual kingdom. Practical application of the science of esotericism is through moral living, harmlessness, and self-forgetfulness. Living in this way, we assist the Christ, the hierarchy, and all of humanity through the process of redemption, where in the new Aquarian age, enlightenment is the major goal of education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sunny. That was a beautiful presentation.
Thank you.
And there's so much in there too, but we just have a few minutes now for anybody that would like to make any comments or pose any questions. You can do that by simply clicking the button that says raise hand on the bar, either at the bottom or the top of your screen. And I see we already have 2 hands raised from earlier. So Jade Chung, would you like to share something? Okay, it looks like it's not working. Maybe your hand was up from earlier, so maybe it's a accident. Let's go on to Matthew Martin.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to share a little story, which is around the mid-70s. I lived in Tucson, Arizona, and I attended theosophical meetings where I met a woman who actually studied with Maria Montessori. And she invited me to her classes at her home. Well, I was about 20 years old then, and she treated me like her grandson.
Lovely.
So much love and kindness. And she doted on me, I have to say. I don't remember all she taught in the class because it was a long time ago, but I do remember her telling me how Maria Montessori taught her that every child is really a soul, a divine spirit.
Absolutely.
And their soul needs to feel free to explore, wonder, and be creative.
Yes.
And every soul is creative, but we have to give freedom to the soul and nurture the soul with love and recognition. Thanks.
Thank you, Matthew. That's a lovely comment. I know when you're in the Montessori classroom, it feels as though you're in a spiritual environment. And, you know, I had always thought of Maria Montessori as a theosophist, but I didn't have any proof of that But when my husband and I went to India, we went to Adyar, and in the bookshop of the Theosophical Society there, they had all her books, and I thought, oh, she must have been a Theosophist. But so when I was preparing for this talk and doing a little research, I was going online and I found one count said, oh, she's a Catholic, she was raised a Catholic, and you know, there's no, all religions work towards the same goal, but I found an actual paper by what she called herself a second generation Theosophist. And what she said was that Maria Montessori opened her first school in 1906, and she met Annie Besant in 1907, who for a time led the Theosophical Society, and I guess they were great friends throughout their life. And during the war, Maria Montessori took refuge at Adyar, at the Theosophical Society, because in Europe her schools were all destroyed. And she actually started training teachers in India, and had the first Indian school, Montessori School there, and they had like 300 students sign up just instantaneously. And so I thought, you know, how amazing it is that life is so interwoven and interconnected. You know, it's just beautiful. But she definitely is an inspiration to many, even now.
Thank you, Sunny.